amazing opportunity to introduce 3 other people who are just, I just admire these young people so much. I'm going to invite Osewe, Ava, and Zeta, come on up, and I'll stay up here with you, but I want to, these are 3 students from Sidwell Friends School here in Washington, D.C. And they have set an example that can be replicated. We're going to hear some other examples today from other students. Come on up here and have a seat.
Thank you, Mr. Bear.
I'm going to stay up with you real quick. So they've created a school exhibition of service, something that any school in America can do. Every school in America has an athletic trophy case, right? Every high school and junior high. How many have service trophy cases? Almost none. Here's one right here, and we're going to hear how they did it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Osewe Ogata, a senior at the Sidwell Friends School in D.C.
I'm Zeta and Ava. I'm a sophomore at Sidwell Friends School.
And I'm Ava Tavakoli, and I'm a junior at Sidwell Friends School.
The first step of our process was conducting interviews with different members of our community, alumni, current faculty members, whatnot. And I had the privilege of doing that part of the process. And everyone was very generous with their time with me. You know, they're all busy and whatnot with their families, with their jobs, but I definitely appreciated that they gave me the time to interact with them. And I was struck by, it's no secret I'm interested in government myself, so I spoke to a lot of government people, but I was struck by the wide variety of ways people were serving, whether it's in education, science, community organizing, a wide extent. And I was even struck by even the same person, the varying paths of service they took throughout their own life, and how maybe they started off doing one thing, and then they said, no, let me pivot and try something else, but that throughout it all, there was this passion for service and helping others, which remained consistent. And 2 interviews that stuck with me were an interview with Nina Santiago and Delaney Kempner. And Nina had spent time working for the FBI, the Bureau of ATF, and she serves as a clerk of the Sidwell Alumni Advisory Board, so still very involved with Sidwell. But during the interview, she talked about some of the personal sacrifices she's made in terms of spending time with her family and whatnot, and also just the consistency that it takes on a daily basis to serve, and for me, that was quite touching. And Delaney has spent work in various communications roles for different state governments, especially in New York, and a lot of behind-the-scene work, even though it's communications. But I just remember she said, again, service is not necessarily about making a name for yourself, but doing what you believe is right. So for me, that was very touching, and it was a great experience.
And I also conducted many alumni interviews at Sidwell Friends School, and I think something that also stuck out to me was, again, kind of what Osewe said, just how many different types of service there were, and also just how small the acts of service started out and how largely they were able to grow with the alumni's passion and dedication. And I think one interview that really stuck out to me was an interview with Dr. John Flower. And basically, he was telling us how he was with a group of students in Yunnan, China, and Mr. Zhang Jianhua invited them in all for tea, and he was basically a farmer in Yunnan, China, and he was explaining to Dr. Flower how his house was about to be flooded, and Dr. Flower really enjoyed sharing Chinese culture with American students, so he came up with an idea to take apart the house in Yunnan, China, piece by piece, bring it all to America, and then rebuild the house in West Virginia with the help of lots of local students. A lot of them were Sidwell students, and Osewe and I actually had the opportunity to help rebuild the house this summer. But basically now the China Folk House serves as a place where people can not only learn about the history of the house, but about Chinese culture. And they have a Tibetan kitchen. They were telling us a lot about that. So I think that it was just really inspiring to me to see how Dr. Flower came up with such an outside of the box and abstract idea. And I really did enjoy my interviews with everyone.
The next part of the process was creating the posters, like of some sort of visual display. And the most important part of that was capturing not only what service people, alumni have done, but also the meaning behind that service. So what drives them, what motivates them, the impact that service has on their life, as well as the impact that they put out into the world, like their contribution to something larger. And in general, Sidwell emphasizes service, but it's really rare that we would get the opportunity to actually see how people form their entire lives and entire careers over a path to service. And I think this is the type of service that goes unrecognized. And by partnering with NMCFS, I think Sidwell, we're able to actually bring that recognition and give it that recognition that it deserves. And with the cost of virtually nothing, we used Sidwell's photography lab printer to print out the posters and display. And I think this is something that can be adapted to various different communities.
And after we did this whole project at Sidwell, we realized that we wanted to share what we had learned with other communities and other spaces. So we decided to take it upon ourselves to make a website. And basically the website not only includes all the information, all the amazing stories that we've learned from the alumni, but it also includes a toolkit on how other schools and communities can get started in this, because we had such an amazing experience and we want it to spread to other communities.
In hearing all these different alumni stories, the thing that stood out to me the most was how almost everyone, without being asked specifically about this, brought everything back to the Sidwell Quaker values. So in Sidwell, we have this set of values called the SPICES. That stands for simplicity, peace, integrity, community, equity, and stewardship. And I didn't expect that almost everyone really emphasized how much of an impact that these SPICES had on their path to service. And to me, that shed a new light on what service meant. Now I see it as such an abstract thing where it's so malleable to each and every one individual's desires, values, virtues, and passions in life. And I feel like this is the very core concept of NMCFS. To me, this is the purpose and goal of this project, is to highlight that there's not one direct path to service, but rather each and every one can shape their own path based on who they are, based on their identity, based on what values they have and everything. And we hope that by displaying these paths, we hope that others can begin to imagine and begin to shape their own path.
And I really enjoyed this experience, and it had a really big impact on me and also the type of service that I do. I was able to learn from an alumni, Zoha Siddiqui, and basically she did something really amazing. She established 13 libraries all around Pakistan, and that helped reach over 20,000 girls in underprivileged communities in Pakistan. And that inspired me to create my own Chinese curriculum, Chinese and English curriculum, and distribute it across China. And I think it was just great to have such amazing role models to look up to throughout this whole experience. And it also taught me that great acts of service don't necessarily come from having a clear-cut plan of exactly what you're going to do right off the bat, but it just really comes from passion, commitment, and dedication.
And for me, one of the impacts of NMCFS is that it reminded me that there are always other people invested in the problems that you're interested in, that no problem is too daunting to tackle, and that we all have to do our part. For me, public health is very important, and of course America, in my mind, is the greatest country in the world, but we have many issues when it comes to public health. We're very unhealthy. And NMCFS reminded me to look for people who are also addressing that problem. I was gladdened to see that there are many online people, influencers, doctors, fitness gurus who are inspiring people and addressing it. And in my own life, one of my friends, I'm a senior, so we have Beach Week coming up, and he was saying, he wants to look good for Beach Week. So he was, not to expose him, but he was asking me and another friend, what can I do to be healthier? So we made a group chat, and we started sharing different ideas, sharing our dinners, that kind of thing. And then as more and more people heard about it, hey, can you add me? Can you add me? And now I've kind of hyped it up. It's only 10 people now, but that's still 7 more than it was in the beginning, and just making that little difference there. So that's one thing. Oh, thank you. That's one thing NMCFS taught me. And then finally, it just shifted how I view service, and maybe also part of that is maturing, but I'm sure it had an impact. Before, and I've always seen joining the military as the ultimate sacrifice, but originally I saw it as something admirable, but something other people could do. It wasn't a sacrifice I wanted to make. But through this process of NMCFS and having all these conversations, I saw service isn't a burden, but it's a great opportunity. It's gratifying. And even though it's not supposed to be about yourself, it'll be a very enriching experience for yourself, and you grow from it and you learn from it. So since this experience, I've decided I plan on, if they'll take me, joining either the Marines or the Navy after undergrad for college. So, you know,
Well, I'm being reminded by my team that we've got these wonderful, wonderful young people, and we're going to hear more throughout the day. So we've started by learning from young people in service. We're now going to hear about how communities can engage in service from some real experts who have continued to live the service dream. One more round of applause for these wonderful young people. We'll invite our other guests.